going on, Jerome's? So I just realized it sucks ass that we're talking about a season-ending press conference for Kevin McConnell and Kwesi. That went down yesterday afternoon, feeding the local media jackals. Now, a lot has been made about the attire. It's like no Vikings gear for either. But yeah. But overall, both Kwesi and Kevin McConnell heading into contract years. And yes, I do think that both of them should be extended. But Kwesi's can't draft. Whatever. Look at this rooster. Look at the cap space. Look exactly what they're going to do. Move forward with J.J. McCarthy. Going to be good to go. And also, yes, even though Kevin McConnell hasn't won a playoff game in 3 seasons, 13-win season 2022, 14-win season this year, going to be good to go. No sweat. Next, talking about their job security and looking for extensions. They both were overtly positive, right? And you can tell, if there was going to be some tension, you can definitely slide things in there because they've been in Minnesota long enough. They definitely know passive aggressiveness. But Kwesi, Alcalus the Athletic, Vikings GM Kwesi adofo-mensah said he met with ownership in person following the season. Said ownership was supportive. Said he doesn't wake up thinking about contract. Said he doesn't think he's entitled to anything. Said he's unbelievably grateful for the opportunity. Now, if there was one of them who is gonna serve out a lame duck year, which you're in a contract year and you don't have any long-term stability after that, it would be Kwesi, right? Because it's different between executives and coaches. Because coaches, if you're a lame duck, players generally don't listen to you because they're like, you're not going to be here longer than this season, so what's the point anyway? Executives, they don't really care. In general, GMs don't really interact with the team during the season. So it's whatever. But I do think that both of them should be extended. But if only one of them was going to get an extension this offseason, in my opinion, it should be Kevin McConnell. Gessling Strip, speaking of that, in his season-ending press conference, Kevin McConnell said he wants to sign a contract extension with the Vikings this offseason. He said he's had great dialogue with the Wilfs this week to wrap up the season. Didn't share a timetable for when he'd like a deal done, but says he wants to be in Minnesota. His deal ends after 2025. And Kevin McConnell said all the right things, basically spitting in the face of all the rumor mongering from Florio. Was like, oh, there's tension because they didn't get a deal done last year. Whatever. Some will get done this year, and we'll just go from there. Also, so a lot has been made. So end of season pressers, 2022, 2023, Kevin McConnell and Kwesi did them together. Now, this year, they took turns. I don't read anything into that, but makes you raise an eyebrow. Also, both the previous years, end of season pressers are decked out in Vikings gear, both of them. So I don't know. Plus, I gotta get me the Bud hat. It's pretty damn fantastic. And as we said yesterday, Kevin McConnell in the depression loungewear shirt, which I've been in. You're just watching the All-22, hoping things will change. Doesn't happen. Yeah, but it's really funny. So a lot of people did make a stink about Kevin McConnell, notably not wearing any logos, but Kevin Seifert, ESPN, who's not Carl Gershman. No idea why I spent time on this, but for the geniuses who read into Kevin McConnell's lack of Vikings gear today, here are some other examples of press conferences he gave this season without any apparent Vikings gear, usually on days like today when there was no practice. So that actually makes sense. And like I said, since there's no practice, talk about practice. Oh, why isn't there any practice? Oh. So he's sitting in his office, eating Takis, drinking a Fresca, and just thinking about what could have been. In the arms of an angel. Something like that. Kwesi talked about the future of Slinging Sam Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback. A Vikes fan page. Kwesi, quote, we got to see Sam play some incredible football for us. Everything we do is about what's the team around him going to look like. You show up every day and get the best version of whoever you decide to go with at quarterback. How does that fit into your long-term picture, contract, all those different things that go into our plan? Kevin McConnell said similar things, but it did seem like the Vikings are turning the page. It is going to be J.J. McCarthy's team. I know that some people think that there's a chance that Darnold gets a very, very tepid market and he comes back for a very cheap deal, and maybe a 1 year, $15 million deal. I don't necessarily see that. I think that so many teams need a quarterback, and this draft ain't flush with top tier quarterback talent that I think that Darnold's still going to get paid. I still think that he'll get $25-30 million per season, which I don't know. After the Packers game, he was going to break the bank. So it's not insane to say that Darnold cost himself multiple tens of millions of dollars over the last 2 games. Was it all his fault? No, but a lot of it was. All right, and Kwesi's big. He must have went to Rick Spielman University because he's very adept to talking at length but saying nothing. Maybe that's just what all GMs are good at. Who knows? Next, speaking of the golden child, Kwesi, Will Raggett, Sports Illustrated. Kwesi and JJ McCarthy, quote, he's on the field throwing and training. He looks great. You talk about the kid who's just obsessed with football and loves being around the game. We're excited about what we have at him. We're excited about this offseason for him. So if he's out there already moving, just a couple months removed from his meniscus repair, as well as injection, great sign. Great sign. Because as the Vikings, the offseason goes along, you're going to have offseason workouts, and McCarthy strikes me as a guy who doesn't really care too much about vacations. So he'll be here at TCO grinding probably all summer, and then you have organized team activities, getting your lifts in. You got rookie camp, which McCarthy can still take a part in, and then you got OTAs, and you got training camp. He's still going to put in that work. So everything that he learned in the classroom and in the meeting room and in the film room this year, he can put into practice on the field. So I think that also a more fatty, right, accepting his fate, and maybe this is a springboard that he needed because now, well, he's already a chip on shoulder type player, but now he definitely has that again to prove all the haters and the losers wrong. Plus, he's a competitive kid, and he sees how all the other rookies in his class have fared. Mainly pretty damn good. And also, the previous year was Darnold 14 wins. That's the bar. What's JJ McCarthy going to do now? It's going to be awesome, man. Also, Kevin O'Connell talked about McCarthy guessing. KOC said, blah, 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 on the field training, be right where we hoped he would be at this point. And it's exactly what they said when the reports of the injection came down. A lot of outlets called it surgery, but it didn't change his timetable whatsoever. So we're good there. O'Connell, quote, I think he's maximized what this year was for him. I think he's got a level of comfort in our offensive system. And that's big, too, because it's not so much the physical part of transitioning from college quarterback to the NFL, but it's picking up the offense. And, McCarthy, even – all right, so obviously he got a full offseason work, full training camp, one preseason game, but O'Connell didn't sugarcoat things for McCarthy. Like, he got the full offensive install, just like Darnold, just like Mullins, just like Jaron Hall in offseason work and training camp. So he was already absorbing this offense, and now he got a full season as a all 22 view, and now he's going to be able to implement that. So, mental reps give way to physical reps now, and that's going to be fantastic. Also, speaking of the quarterbacks, Alec Lucy Athletic, Vikings GM Kwesi adofo-mensah on Daniel Jones. Who? Daniel Jones, quote, I think he's a potential option for us going forward. It's the most important position in the sport. We're excited to have potential options we think can come here and give a certain required level of play that'll help us compete. And that's what I love about the Vikings is that it's all about options. All right, so the only constant in what's going to happen is J.J. McCarthy is going to be here, and he's likely going to start. Now, there's still an outside chance that maybe Darnold is back. But I think more likely Darnold leaves in free agency. I don't think that the tag and trade is viable anymore. J.J. McCarthy is your starter, and Daniel Jones gets himself a career rehab season with great coaching and $5-6 million bucks, premium, a backup quarterback contract, and just go from there. He's not the bridge. He's not the starter. He's clearly the backup to J.J. McCarthy. But it's a lot like we talked about Darnold's one season in San Francisco where he was Brock Purdy's backup, even though Darnold's better than Purdy. Even though Purdy's going to get $60 million per season. But Jones can have that year, catch his breath, get some good coaching, fix his mechanics, and go from there. All right. Unfortunately, so this time of year, teams that have been eliminated sign these futures contracts. So it's generally players that have been on the practice squad and that add them to the 90-man roster. Generally, these contracts have nothing guaranteed, but they have the rights. And unfortunately, the Vikings lost a good one. Cardinals, we have signed wide receiver Tristan Jackson and Quez Watkins, formerly of the Eagles, 2 futures contracts for the 2025 season. And I love me some Tristan Jackson. The way that he worked his way up from practice squad, made the 53-man roster. Now, in season, he was waived and then added back to the practice squad. But since he was on the initial week 1 53-man roster, his full season salary was guaranteed. So he got that case, had himself a great training camp, caught a couple great touchdowns in preseason as well. And, it's just a numbers game. When you got Jefferson, Addison, Jalen Speedy Naylor, Trent Sherfield's doing good things, Brandon Powell, There's only so many spots, right? And hopefully Jackson will get an opportunity in Arizona and go from there. Love me some Trish Jackson. That's right, man. Speaking of the quarterbacks, so everyone and their mom has their opinion, and a lot of the media people, except for Pelissero, for whatever reason, do think that Darnold is going to be gone. Per Persuasion, J.J. McCarthy is the future of the Vikings, says a Schultz report of Bleacher Report. I believe Sam Darnold will still draw real interest this offseason, and a little competition can quickly drive up his price, but I have a hard time seeing him back in Minnesota, and that's exactly it. Even though the Vikings have a ton of cap space, if Darnold had balled out, had caught fire, won the Vikings Super Bowl, got them to a Super Bowl, then you would have made it work cap-wise. You would have tagged him. You would have worked out a long-term extension. You would have done a lot of things, right? But that ship has sailed. I think, again, with Darnold, the Vikings don't win 14 games without Darnold. He played some high-leverage football in some big-time situations, but that's literally how bad his last 2 games were. I'm sorry. You just cannot get over how it was a complete pooping of the bed in the 2 biggest games of the year. It is what it is. But Darnold's services will still be coveted, especially if Josh McCown goes somewhere else. I think that McCown would look to bring him with, but you look at the Raiders, you look at the Titans, you look at a number of teams that need quarterbacks. Darnold's certainly going to have a market. Also, one of the reasons why Darnold was bad is that Cam Robinson was also bad. Yeah, so Cam Robinson's going to sign somewhere in free agency, big-time money, but Darrisaw is working his way back. So tore ACL, MCL, right before the half against the Rams week 8, but he's back at TCO. He's grinding. He's getting back. Now, ideally, he'll be back for the start of the 2025 season, but I don't know what's going to happen. Like OTAs, probably out the window. Training camp, we'll see. Maybe he'll start the year on the PUP. Who knows? But, Darrisaw is an absolute stud, premium player. Health has been an issue. Hasn't played a full season as of yet, but he's the guy that you're going to build around going for, because for my money, knocking on all the wood, if he stays healthy, there's no better young left tackle in the game that blends pass protection, power, run game, everything. Love me some CD. Someone else I love too. So I would love for Flores to stay. I think he's probably like 70% to stay. I think the Flores is probably going to end up in the top 3 for a lot of these head coaches searches. You look at the Jaguars, you look at the Jets, etc. You look at the Bears. We'll see. Oh, yeah. Flores on the Bears. So Dan Graziano, ESPN, predicts that the Bears are going to hire Flores. I don't know. I think it's Mike McCarthy's job to lose. I think Ben Johnson is going to the Raiders because Brady tampered, obviously. But I love that Bears fans are just like, yeah, we were never getting Ben Johnson. So, yeah, we'll just settle for Mike McCarthy, which probably isn't the worst hire in the world, but it's just funny. Yeah. They predict Flores is going to get that. I think that Flores is probably going to end up the second choice or third choice in a lot of these job searches. So I think that he will be back. But if he does leave, God bless him. We'll always be rooting for him unless he's playing the Vikings. Or if he goes to the Bears, dead to me. I'm just playing. All right, so dive on into potential replacements. I made the list before, but Jerome Mayo is going to get trashed for his stint as Patriots head coach. He got that job before he was ready, right? And it was just in his contract that he would take over after Belichick, but it's tough following a legend. It's more difficult when you're not ready. I don't think Jerome Mayo was ready for this job. But he's a well-respected defensive mind who could be a DC option for the Vikings if Flores leaves. Even though Mayo never has been the official defensive coordinator title under Belichick, he was the de facto DC in game planning and play calling, similar to Flores, who never held the official DC title either at the end of his Patriots run. Yeah, that's what's interesting, where outside of Patricia, Belichick has never really had that official defensive coordinator. Well, Romeo Crennel, I think Mangini had it, or maybe he was just defensive backs coach who called plays. But that role has been nebulous. And Mayo, multi-time Pro Bowl linebacker, was great. Coming out of the University of Tennessee, was a well-respected player, great defensive mind, and also he was a major part of the defensive game planning for the Patriots for all those years. Like him and one of the Belichick kids. I forget which one. The one that did the meme, like that one, right? So they're splitting coordinator duties. So Mayo does understand about schemes, about play calling. He does have that. And also given the fact that Kevin O'Connell and Gerard Mayo are part of the same draft class, they're teammates, they have that connection there. I think that's something that could be viable, although people poo-poo it because of what happened with him as a head coach. It's exactly like Brandon Staley, where not so great head coaches, really good defensive coordinators, defensive minds, and go from there. Lastly, the defense coordinator is greatly going to benefit from having Jalen Redmond back in the fold. So I love the Redmond story. Undrafted out of Oklahoma, bounced around UFL, added late to the 90-man roster, and made the 53. Got some really good run, and I really like Jalen Redmond. Like he's a guy that is a disruptor out there, both against the run as well as getting a pass rush. You could easily make, well, it's not even like a case. Like, straight up, he was the Vikings' best pass rushing defensive lineman this season. So I'm not counting AVG and Grenard. I consider them edge rushers. But interior defensive lineman, it really was Redmond. 18 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and a sack in only 13 games, 236 snaps. So I want his role to grow and show next year. So love me some Jalen Redmond. I want the Vikings to go hard in the paint for some defensive linemen as well in free agency and the draft. And hopefully Levi Drake Rodriguez can pan out as well. So really smart to bring Redmond back. Absolutely love it. But that's it. That's it. Vikings news done for this beautiful Friday. You guys are the best you know what to do. Skull production value.